What's up? It's your boy NoodleNick. Today we're back. We're checking out a couple of chairs. They're both dynamic ergonomic chairs. So we're going to be comparing them. There's a pretty big difference, but they're also somewhat similar in a weird way. We have the LiberNovo Omni chair and the Lavenne R9. They're two chairs that I've reviewed in the past, and they're both sort of kind of hitting that same spot of like what people want in a chair. So I kind of want to compare them just to see what the differences are. That's pretty much it. It's a chair comparison video. So lock in. Okay, so first up we have the LiberNovo Omni chair. I just want to give you a quick look at it. Like I said, LiberNovo has actually made a couple of upgraded versions of this chair now based on some feedback from the community and stuff like that. So this is like their base model. It's got this big contraption slash assembly that basically holds all of your weight. This thing right here, it's got an electronic shock here, and it has a lot of electronic controls here to do different things, and it's all electronic. It comes with a battery right here that you can just take in and out, charge with a little Type-C. Pretty simple, but yet effective. I did cover this and I did label it the comfiest chair, period. I gotta say, like, you know, overall, like first impression, the one thing I noticed about this chair is that it's straight up comfortable. It's very soft and squishy. Now that you have a little introduction on LiberNovo Omni chair, let's go ahead and move on to the Lavenne R9. If you guys haven't watched this video, this is essentially also a dynamic ergonomic chair. I did get the retro version. I called it the retro chair, although it does come in a lot of different colors, and they don't really market it as a retro chair. I just said that because the green reminded me of the 80s, but they have a lot of different other colors. But this one, the Lavenne R9, is different in a lot of ways. Just like first appearance, it's a little bit beefier. It's clearly made with, I would say, more durable materials overall compared to the LiberNovo. I think ultimately what Lavenne is going for is durability more than immediate comfort. They built it to last a really long time, and they also built it to be comfortable sitting like for long durations. So that's why they have this S curve for your spine, and there's a bunch of airbags in the back here that you can control with a little remote. Adjust some airbags and stuff like that. Yeah, and also the armrests on this have like insane, I don't know, customizability, the ability to move it around as much as you want. I've been sitting in this chair, the Lavenne R9. I think it's the R9 Pro. I've been sitting in this chair for like the last 3 weeks or so because I was getting ready to do this comparison video, and I didn't really sit in the Lavenne before this for very long, but I decided to give it a shot. And it's surprisingly comfortable, especially for long periods. I did find a meta way of setting it up so that I'm like most comfortable with my armrests, and actually the meta for the armrests on this chair is actually this, believe it or not. I know it may not look good, but this right here is literally how I was gaming, and it is amazing. I've never had like a armrest that go this way, but surprisingly awesome. So if you have this chair and you're like, what's up with these armrests? This is perfection. Anyways, moving on. Side by side, there's the backs and there's the fronts. Now I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on the comparison. So first we're going to cover cushion material and the sitting experience. So LiberNovo has a multi-density foam here. So their immediate grab, basically they want you to have that instant like enveloping feeling as soon as you sit down, because it's so soft and you just really go into it like all the way, and it just like hugs you. The only issue with foam is that over a long period of sitting, like a couple of hours, the foam starts to get dense, it starts to get hot, and that's just the nature of foam. There's nothing wrong specifically with the chair, but that's just the nature of foam. Foam gets hot, it gets compressed, it's extremely comfortable, it feels amazing, but you know, after a few hours, it does trap a little bit of heat, so you might end up with a little swamp ass. The R9 does it a little bit differently. They actually do a breathable mesh, not foam. It's supposed to like follow kind of like a high-end mattress, so it has 3 different layers inside here. So the top is 4D elastic woven fabric, and that gives it that kind of soft, flexible touch. And then in the middle, there's an air layer fabric. It helps with quick drying ventilation, and it's also antibacterial. And then the bottom is reinforced mesh for strong support. So you got 3 layers there. And the other part when it comes to the sitting, of course, is the front edge of the chair. So the front edge of the R9 Pro has this waterfall edge, and that essentially means that like the shape of the chair, when you're hitting the back of your knees, like back here, sitting right here. Basically, when you sit in a chair like this and it has a little bit of extra cushion and a shape for your legs, because your legs obviously aren't going to be straight, they're going to be a little bit down. So this is like a waterfall edge, and then this one on the other hand, this is all foam, so you can like fold it up, and this is actually the bottom edge of the chair, like a little bit back here. So mostly you're just going to kind of have this foam like behind your knees instead of a little bit of actual like plastic body physical support in a bit of a U shape. Essentially what you have here is just kind of foam, and then it pushes down a little bit, and then you end up sitting on like a square. So essentially what Lavenne here is doing is they did sacrifice a small amount of comfort, which I respect LiberNovo for just going straight for the most comfy chair. The Lavenne R9 went for like I said, the durability side of things. They're essentially going for stable support and like 8+ hours of like sitting comfortability versus just immediate, oh, which one's better? It's like, which one's better over a certain amount of time working, you know? That's more what they focused on than that initial like clickbait, this feels amazing, don't ask any more questions. They went ahead and kept going. So the 3 layers, that kind of helps add a little bit of extra support, and the open air layer design helps with the cooling. Like I said, one of the biggest problems with the LiberNovo chair was breathability because it's not mesh and it's foam. So that's another thing that Lavenne, I feel like, pulled off a little bit better in my opinion. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the backrest on each one. So with the backrest on the LiberNovo Omni chair, it's their own technology, I believe. It's called a bionic flex fit backrest. It's 8 individual panels, 14 connections, and 16 joints, and that's all driven by a single electronic motor. The design was more built around being able to move all of the chair in tandem, all the pieces kind of moving together, and they built the whole chair based off of that idea. So that's kind of why it has this interesting design. Okay, so unlike the bionic flex fit backrest on the LiberNovo chair, this one has a VTS system. It's called a VTS dynamic spine system, and it also has a bunch of independent air bladders, which helps like adjust the feel of the chair. That's what I was showing you earlier with the little remote. You can hear them getting pushed up. And then you can hear the air release. So essentially ventilation is pretty much the same across the whole chair because the whole chair is also, the back is layered equally just like the seat that has that breathable layer. It's got the mesh layer. It's got the protective backing to give it that shape and I don't know, mass. You know, this thing, because of like the extra splits and all the extra stuff and everything, it doesn't have that like strong backing that you need for durability. I feel like they hit that one here. The foam layer on the backrest for the LiberNovo is actually completely closed, so it does trap heat a little bit, because there's nowhere for it to escape except out the front, like where your back is. It doesn't go out the sides. Because of that, this one does store heat. Under the same sitting time, the R9 actually does stay a little bit cooler. That's just because the mesh layer and the extra air fabric layer kind of helps dissipate heat a lot more. So if you're the type of person that sweats a lot while they're working, or they work in a really hot environment, then the R9 might be right for you. But if you're just shooting for comfort, definitely the LiberNovo. You know, it just kind of depends on your situation. One major difference that I feel is important to mention, they both have batteries. They both have some sort of control system. It's not just a basic mechanical chair. There's a little bit more to it, so it does require a battery. So the LiberNovo chair, it's got a 12 volt, 2200 milliamp hour battery. What that gets you is about 30 days of use, and that's with using the Omni stretch every day. You can do it for about 30 days before you need to recharge your battery. However, all of the functions of the chair, all of them rely on the battery, the one battery. Essentially what that means is once the battery ages or breaks down, you guys know how batteries are, even in electric cars, they need to be replaced every once in a while. Once your battery goes out, your chair just doesn't work at all. None of the features work without the battery. So that's kind of one of those things where it's like, you can't even like sit your chair back without battery power, which is a little upsetting. You know, like I said, they're going after convenience, and they want the type of people that just want to hit the button and go, and they don't want to adjust a bunch of stuff. They want one and done and just get it done. So that's LiberNovo's way. You know, for convenience sake, a lot of people just want that, and they don't want to deal with any mechanical buttons or anything like that. So it just kind of also depends on who you are. But it does come with a 2-year warranty, so at least for 2 years through LiberNovo you're covered in case your battery goes bad. Otherwise you'd have to get a new one to continue using your chair forever. Like let's say LiberNovo goes out of business, or am I going to be able to find, you know, this LiberNovo brand battery anywhere else? Let's say I really like this chair, but LiberNovo is no longer around. What do I do when this battery stops working and I can't get a new one? You know what I mean? Like I won't really be able to use the chair much. I could still sit in it, but I won't be able to adjust it or anything like that. So that part is a little frustrating. The reason I want to bring that up is because R9 actually made a modular chair. So essentially a lot of the functions of the chair are not connected. So they work independently. Like if I could pop this battery out, I could pop the battery out and I could still do a bunch of stuff in the chair. I could still do pretty much everything except adjusting the airbags. There's so many, there's a lot of manual switches on the chair that can do pretty much every function of the chair in case the battery fails for some reason. You can still use the chair. You don't even need the battery. Usually, I don't even have the battery plugged into this thing. I legit just leave it like popped out like that just to kind of save battery power because I don't need it for anything. I don't really adjust it that much. It just stays, and I put the airbag where I want it, and I just leave it there, and it stays there. Everything else can be adjusted mechanically. So that was the one, probably the biggest thing that I like about the R9 over the Omni chair is its modular design and the fact that it doesn't rely on electronics to work fully. So I think that's kind of nice. But the LiberNovo chair, in my opinion, may be a little easier to operate. Basically all the core ergonomic functions, if you're looking for an ergonomic chair, still stay. It still has the VTS dynamic spine. It still has the carbon fiber floating base, and it's got 5D armrests that work with no electronics. So essentially you have a chair that has a battery, it's got a battery on it, but it doesn't really need it, which I appreciate. Their design concept, they claim that they care about mechanics first and smart features as a secondary thing. So they care more about making sure everything works the way that they want before they start adding features. So like, for example, the air bladder are just kind of an extra feature that you don't really need to use on a daily basis, but they have it there just in case. Do you like electronics, or do you prefer, you know, the reliability of a mechanical item that you may have to operate yourself? It may take a little extra effort on your end, but at the end of the day, it'll probably last longer. That's what I love about mechanical stuff versus electronics, is that mechanical is a lot more reliable. One part of the electronic system might break and it could prevent something basic from happening, like being able to move your chair a little bit just because your battery's dead. I can't stand that. Okay, so let's talk about recline a little bit. So on this chair, the recline is right here. There's 4 modes, 105 degrees, 120, 135, and 160 degrees. Right now we're at the 90. It's locked. It's locked in place at the 90. Then we got 120, 135, and 160. And there you go. So you got 4 different recline modes. The issue with that is that you can't get anywhere in between. Some people like to kind of have like the perfect angle, you know, like the 95-degree tilt, the 101-degree tilt. You know, not everybody likes to have only 4 options because it's like a gear and pawl system. It'll end up getting a little bit louder over time because you're trying to fight those 4 gears that you have that are just preset distances. So after a while, it might start making a little noise. It might get a little loose. So the Lavenne R9 has 4 adjustment modes as well, but you can also kind of go in between, and it also has a free tilt mode. Essentially, we're just going to push down on this one, and then it's unlocked, and we can sit back. This is pretty much all the way, but you can lock it. If you put it in the middle, you can lock it in place, and then you can push it back down to unlock it. And then you can lock it here, bring it down. You can lock it here, lock it there. That's 3. And you can lock it to the back. What I like about that is that you can just kind of leave it. If you just want to leave it free floating, you can just sit back. Essentially, the biggest difference between that one and this one is that the Lavenne, it has a carbon fiber and a glass fiber leaf spring base, and that essentially helps give you that true full free float recline. So you can't actually like lock it in more than just 4 places, I guess is what they're saying. You push up on that one all the way, and you can literally just, bet you can't do that in the Omni chair. So you can kind of get that lock-in stance if you really want, and you get a little bit more freedom of movement, which is nice. Also adjust the back at the same time and just have them both like loose if that's what you want. I kind of like the lean forward. I don't know why, but it does lean forward a little bit if you want it to, for whatever reason. Maybe, I guess it'd be kind of cool actually if you just like working on stuff and you feel like sitting down in a nice chair and you want to work on something down here. The lean forward is actually kind of useful. I've used it a couple of times. So it's essentially this one, it's a pure physical structure, no gears or wearable parts. So you're not going to get that noise from that 4-gear system that could eventually come from wear and tear on something like that. Like over time, the chair isn't going to deteriorate mechanically as easily as the LiberNovo. So the one thing that I would complain about with the LiberNovo chair is that I noticed that it was made for smaller people in mind. Like I said, since this chair is released, LiberNovo has literally released a tall person, a bigger version of this chair, I think called the Maxis, you know, for this base model. My kind of first impression was that maybe I'm a little too tall for this chair. The LiberNovo can support heights of 155 centimeters to 186 centimeters, and that's 5 feet to about 6 feet. So if you're over 6 feet tall, this chair is legitimately not designed for you, which makes sense because as a tall person, my immediate thought was, even though the headrest fully extended, the back kind of didn't go all the way up my shoulders like I wanted. So for the R9, this one is 155 centimeters to 190 centimeters. So essentially that is 5 feet to 6'2". So I'm 6'3", so this one did feel a little bit more comfortable, although to be honest, I definitely could have used 1 more inch, and I feel like that would have helped a bit more for somebody that's tall. Like I said, if you're a tall guy and you do like the LiberNovo Omni chair more than the Lavenne R9, they do have a couple of new options that they just came out with that are really cool. The max load on the LiberNovo Omni chair, this one's 136 kilograms or or roughly 300 pounds. For the Lavenne R9, obviously it's built with a bit more strength, so this one can actually handle 150 kilograms, or for my American friends, 330 pounds. A little bit of space on that weight capacity in case you're pushing that limit. Realistically, the Lavenne R9 is probably going to provide more support for you if you're a bigger person. Now we'll be comparing headrests. LiberNovo chair, headrest. Not gonna lie, probably the squishiest and foamiest and dreamiest headrest out there. Feels pretty great. Although if you do get a lighter color, you're more likely to transfer like stains or like sweat and stuff like that from the back of your head on this one. But obviously this chair at the end of the day, I think gets a bit taller than this one. But you're essentially just resting your head and then there's this giant gap where you have no support. But it does get a little bit taller. Basically memory foam softens under body heat. So once this thing starts heating up, the support kind of fades after a while and you end up with your head kind of resting on this little piece of plastic, which is a little annoying. And also memory foam gets a little bit hotter than your typical office chair material. So your head might get a little warm as well, which also might cause sweating, which could also stain the headrest. But again, if you got like the black version of the chair instead of the white one, it's not really a big deal. No one will see it. And then with the R9, the headrest is like built into like it's just built in, you know what I mean? They have a little bit of extra padding just right in here to kind of help, but it's all hidden away and it's all covered in mesh and it's all breathable as well. I'll admit though that the headrest does feel a lot more firm, so it's going to give you a little bit more support. It's not as soft, it's not as comfortable, but it was built with long work hours in mind, not necessarily immediate comfort. Essentially with the Lavenne chair, what you get is kind of a distribution of force across your entire back and a distribution of support across your back and across your shoulders and in your head. And then essentially what you get with the LiberNovo chair is a bunch of support for just your head. And if you're the kind of person that like moves around a lot or adjusts all the time during the day, you probably want more support than comfort. This chair, essentially, let's be honest, this chair is literally for like taking naps, and it's great and it's comfortable. And this one is the workhorse. This is the one you buy, no frills. You like your stuff to just work. You like it to work every time. You want it to just function. You want it to be a good chair. Now, if you want something to hang out, you know, hang out with the fam, or have like a chair at home maybe, or you want to take a nap in your chair, you want to just chill and watch TV or whatever, then yeah, LiberNovo chair would probably be pretty comfortable. When it comes to needing an office chair, ergonomic chair, especially for like work, for the office, for a really long time, if you're like an editor or like somebody that sits at their desk for a living and you need a chair for that, I would recommend the Lavenne over the Omni chair, just because of durability. You know, I don't want to have to sit here and worry about it. One more thing I just wanted to show you guys real quick is the wheelbase. I noticed, because I did put both of these chairs together myself, when I was looking at the installation process, of course, I noticed that the wheelbase here on the Lavenne R9 is aluminum. The wheels, they are made of more premium material. However, the Lavenne doesn't roll as well on carpet, but they're a lot more durable wheels. They're more like roller skate wheels, and they're really nice. Because the base is a little bit heavier, it's actually harder to scoot on carpet. It's not impossible. You know, unforeseen circumstances, even though they had a way better base, it actually ended up being a little bit worse in my specific situation. Although I do appreciate the material quality, and I think that it's important to not make everything out of plastic, and I do appreciate that the base is like a full metal, full aluminum cast. And of course, this one also has a leg rest. The LiberNovo chair, you gotta pay extra. And the leg rest is a standalone item. It is not connected to the chair. They just made one with the same foam as this. And then the wheelbase on this one, of course, like I said, it's plastic. The wheels are plastic, everything plastic. Lavenne R9 Pro versus LiberNovo Omni chair. Tell me down in the comments which chair you think is better, what you like about one, what you don't like about it. The Lavenne, personally, I think I like the Lavenne a little bit more just because I'm tall, and the LiberNovo chair, it didn't work for me. It didn't work for my editor. I don't know. It's a nice, cute chair, and it's very, very comfortable. It's just not as realistic as the Lavenne chair when it comes to using it for a really long time. I like the look of it. I like the breathability. I love the color. I like the sideways armrest. I like that everything's mechanical and you don't have to rely too much on electronics. That's a big thing for me. To give it the fairest shot possible, LiberNovo chair chair is extremely comfortable. Don't get me wrong. Don't watch this video and not buy a LiberNovo chair because of me, because I'll tell you right now, this chair is extremely comfortable. It just depends on what you want. If you want a chair that's more reliable, more dependable, and you just, you know, say mechanically inclined, or you just don't want to deal with anything ever and you just don't know much about chairs or whatever, I would say get the Lavenne. I would say if you're just looking to hang out and be comfy and maybe a nice chair for home or something like that, then the LiberNovo would definitely be your choice. Like I said, for me personally, because I'm a big and tall kind of guy, Lavenne was really the only realistic option in this scenario. I do love LiberNovo. I think they're a great chair company. I think Lavenne's doing some really cool new stuff, and I think it's just a cool way to kind of compare two chairs that just went down a completely different production path that are essentially trying to reach the same place. It's just somebody that wants a dynamic ergonomic chair, an ergonomic chair that's a little bit different from everybody else's, that looks cool, it's effective, it gets the job done. And I think they both pulled it off really well here. So thanks for watching this video. Thanks Lavenne. Thanks LiberNovo for sending me these for reviews. I didn't have to buy these for the review. I have them already. So yeah, just let me know how you guys feel in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next tech review or chair review or whatever. Peace.